Hi, everyone. Kevin Martin, Chief Research Officer at I4CP. What a great call we held on June 12th. And this is the summary recap of that CHRO COVID-19 Response Series discussion with the Chief People Officer of WPP, Jacqui Canney. WPP, if you don't know who they are, chances are your firm is actually working with them. They are the world's leader when it comes to communications and branding for companies. And Jacqui, one of the questions we had for her is, given who you're working for, how have you learned in the past year with your role as Chief People Officer, how have you been able to take that and apply to your efforts around communications and branding through this crisis? Here's what Jacqui had to say.
So I use the help of a lot of our brands to be able to think about what does our recruiting campaign look like, or when we're rolling out, especially a lot of policies lately, how the tone and tenor should feel, and when it's okay to have Teams meetings or Zoom meetings versus emails and calls. And they have been an incredible help. But at the core of everything I would say that they've taught me or that they're helping me with is to be this person, human-centered design about everything we do around our communications.
What Jacqui was alluding to with that is with 107,000 employees across 112 countries, she said it's so critical that they're taking in, that their entire workforce feels like they're being heard, and that the company is able to take in that perspective, and as they're communicating out, making sure that that resonates with each person within the company. Big task, but critical. Now, Jacqui also then pivoted to talk about how in this crisis, the COVID-19 crisis, but add on top of that, the social unrest tied to the killing of George Floyd and other types of racial inequities, and how that is a crisis as well. And that she has a mechanism, she basically uses what she calls a 3 buckets, or she breaks down work into 3 buckets to help her manage through crisis. And she talked about that.
Crisis happens. You know, the pandemic, it happened, and we had to organize around crisis. We were meeting daily, hourly, and really focused on that. But we also knew that this wasn't going to end soon as the pandemic continued. We needed to think about how we were stabilizing our work and then how we were pivoting to the future, because there's going to be a time when the pandemic is past us, and WPP wants to be stronger than what it was when it went in.
Now, on last week's call, in other words, 2 weeks ago on June 5th, Pat Waters at ServiceNow also, when talking about the social injustice, she said, this cannot be one and done. In other words, she was talking about the criticality of addressing something that is so systemic and how it requires solutions that look at and address the entirety of a system. Jacqui 100% gets that. In fact, this is a picture of the homepage of WPP. You could see that as a firm, they are very much resolved into helping to solve the social injustice, the racial inequities. And Jacqui talked about taking a systemic approach towards that.
You have to hit the whole system up. Where I think in the past, initiatives fail or they don't continue to go is because you'll often have a leader who wants to make change, and then all they do is change where they go recruit. You know, change the university you pick from, change the profile, but you don't think about how are you doing talent development or performance management or pay reviews. And then you become, this won't be new news, but then you get that leaky bucket we all talk about. Like, you put in great people, they leave out the bucket, and then you put more great people in, and you don't make any progress.
So we got into talking about what are you doing practically to make progress, and you'll hear next of how she's taking a data-driven approach to it.
One of the things we're starting with is the data. You know, we're sharing the data of what teams are made up of, what people work on your organizations, what might be percent improvements that you want to make in what the demographics of your team look like, and start to have those open dialogues so that we can think about, okay, at least we know baseline what we want and baseline where we need to go.
We then pivoted of looking a little bit more long-term, talking about the system and taking systemic approaches towards social injustice, but also looking and not losing sight of the long-term horizon and looking at some systemic approaches that HR needs to take in order to shape the business going forward. It's the very reason, this is why we have a screenshot in here, that we wrote this article that was published in the Financial Times in early June as part of that publication's special report on the future of work. Now, in essence, what this article talks about is the importance of reinventing the talent supply chain to ensure capability, capacity, and agility where and when needed. Jacqui talked about an initiative that her company, or a program her company worked on, and actually kicked off on June 8th, a new series called Next Gen Leaders, which showed how instead of just being reactionary, that would have been the easy approach. They thought a little bit more long-term. They thought creative. They leveraged digital, and listened to what they were able to do with next generation leaders.
The Next Gen series was born out of the COVID pandemic, actually, where, many of us had internship programs, and WPP was always one that had one, particularly in the United States. And with cost cuts and budget cuts and then practicality of physical meetings, a lot of people started to talk about the intern program being one to get rid of or kind of postpone. Let's say, I shouldn't say get rid of. And what I was super passionate about, and Mark Reed was passionate about, is that the belief that our workforce starts with the students in these early years.
And what I love, what Jacqui was describing, and we've heard this time and time again, is CHROs talking about how we've got to leverage the crisis for opportunity. Never let a crisis go for waste, right? And they were looking at it opportunistically. That's what Jacqui and WPP did. Now, this coming week, we're not going to have a call. I4CP's taking the day off in observance of the Juneteenth celebration. Now, this is the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in the United States, but we will pick up on June 26th. We've got a guest that we are not going to name right now. We're just about to confirm that person. I'm super excited about who we're going to announce. So please put this back onto your calendars for June 26th, and we'll see you then. Until then, be well and stay healthy, everyone. Take care.